They say the dead don't talk, but my father's silence screamed louder than any voice I've ever heard. I hadn't set foot in Centralia, Pennsylvania in over 17 years. Not since the summer after college when I packed my car and promised my mother I'd be back for Christmas. I never came back, not even for her funeral. Now I was standing in front of the house I grew up in, one of the few still standing in a town swallowed by fire. Not metaphorical fire. The real kind. Underground coal seams had been burning beneath Centralia since the 60s. Most of the town was evacuated. Roads buckled. Homes condemned. My father refused to leave. Arthur Brennan, lifelong resident of a place the world forgot. The property somehow remained intact. Slightly outside the main fire zone, but close enough to feel the heat some days. The trees nearby had long since turned black, leaves never regrowing. He died 2 weeks ago. Heart failure, alone. The mailman found him slumped in the hallway after noticing the newspapers piling up. When the coroner called, I felt nothing. The grief had been burned out of me a long time ago. Now I was the last Brennan. The lawyer said the house and whatever was inside was mine. I came to clean it up, sell what I could, and leave Centralia behind forever. The front door stuck like it always did. I shoved it open with my shoulder. The air inside was thick with dust, coal, and a strange scent I couldn't place, something sour like turned soil and old regret. I stepped inside and immediately felt the shift. It didn't feel abandoned. It felt like it had been waiting. The second night back in the house, I woke up choking. Not a nightmare. Not some sleep paralysis bullshit. I mean literally choking, like something thick was in my throat. The air in the house was heavy, muggy, like it had been holding its breath for years and just now decided to exhale. I'd been sleeping on the old pull-out couch in the den. I couldn't bring myself to go upstairs yet. My old bedroom was a tomb and my parents' room was worse. I hadn't opened their door. I wasn't ready. That night, though, I woke to a sound. Click. It was faint. Metallic. Like a doorknob turning. I sat up, heart thudding. The sound came from upstairs. I grabbed the flashlight I kept by the couch, power wasn't reliable, and headed toward the staircase. The upper floor was colder, almost like it had its own weather. The hallway stretched longer than I remembered. My steps were muffled by the old carpet and the house creaked with every breath it took. Then I saw it. The door at the end of the hall. It had always been locked. Growing up, Dad told me it was just storage. Said the floorboards were rotten and it wasn't safe. I never questioned it, kids don't, not when parents say something with that final tone. But now, the door was open about 2 inches. Not wide. Just enough to let you know something inside had decided it was done waiting. I hesitated. Then I pushed it open. The smell hit first, mildew, rust, and something else. Coppery. Sharp. Like old blood and colder secrets. The room was small, windowless. A single bulb dangled from the ceiling. Dust-covered crates lined the wall. There was a desk in the corner, a child's desk, blue, with faded stickers peeling off the drawers. On top of it, a thick manila folder tied with twine. I pulled it open. Photos. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Most were Polaroids. All of children. Some were smiling. School pictures. Others weren't. Some were taken through windows. Through fences. From across streets. And then I saw me. 6 years old. In the backyard. Swinging. Unaware. A timestamp from 1991 in the corner. Someone had been watching me. No, documenting me. The photos went back to the 80s. Some were labeled with names. First names only. Some had red XS drawn across the corners. I felt my stomach lurch. One photo had 2 boys in it. One of them was me. The other, I didn't recognize. On the back, in my father's handwriting. Ethan, May 1989, stop asking. I dropped the photo. The light bulb above me flickered. Behind me, the door creaked closed. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the kitchen, chain-smoking cigarettes I'd sworn off 15 years ago, the folder of photographs open in front of me like a crime scene. Who the hell was Ethan? And why was there a photo of us together, one I had no memory of? I called the only person in town who might know. Mrs. Wilkins. My old neighbor. Lived across the street since I was a kid, survived 2 strokes and a house fire. Still sharp as a tack. She answered on the second ring. Arthur's boy? Yeah. Hi. I'm back at the house. Something's come up and I was wondering if I could ask you something. She was quiet for a second. Is this about the other one? My spine went ice cold. What other one? Her voice dropped. I don't talk about that house after dark. If you want answers, come by tomorrow. 10 sharp. And don't bring anything from inside with you. She hung up. I stared at the phone. The other one? I didn't wait till morning. I started digging through every record in the house. Tax files, school reports, old photo albums, and finally I found something wedged between two Bibles in a drawer in Dad's study, a birth certificate. Ethan James Brennan, born May 17, 1984. Parents, Arthur Brennan and Lydia Brennan. Deceased, August 14, 1989. I dropped the paper like it burned. I had a brother no one ever told me about. Not my father, not my mother, not even once. 5 years old when he died. And then erased. There were no pictures of him in the house. No belongings. No mention. It was like he never existed. But now that I knew, the absence felt deafening. Like the house had been hiding the silence. I picked up the folder again and flipped to the back. Tucked in with the photographs was a drawing, a child's drawing done in crayon. 2 stick figures holding hands. One taller than the other. Me plus Ethan written in blocky, crooked letters. I did that. I drew that. So I did remember him. Somewhere deep. Buried. Suddenly, I felt a breeze across my neck. The hallway light, the only one still working, flickered and buzzed. Then, from upstairs, a sound like nails dragging across wood. Slow. Deliberate. I turned toward the stairs. Then I heard it. A voice. Barely audible. Whispered in a child's tone, almost like a memory trying to breathe. Why did you forget me? Mrs. Wilkins' house looked like it was held together by ivy and spite. Every window had lace curtains. A wooden cross hung crooked on the porch door. The woman herself answered before I even knocked, like she'd been waiting. Leave your coat outside, she said flatly. And your shoes. I don't let that house's dust into mine. I obeyed without argument. Inside smelled like Vicks, cat litter, and something floral. Dried lavender, maybe? Her living room hadn't changed since Reagan. Plastic covers on the couch, 3 TVs stacked on top of each other, only one working. She handed me a mug of black coffee, then sat across from me like we were in a confession booth. Start talking, she said. I found pictures, I told her. In the locked room. Of me. And of another boy. Ethan. She flinched. That name hadn't been said in years and it hurt her to hear it. But she nodded. I figured you'd find him eventually. I hoped you wouldn't. Some things ain't meant to be exhumed. Why didn't anyone ever tell me I had a brother? She stared at me for a long moment. Because your father made damn sure we didn't. She leaned forward. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Ethan didn't die in no accident, sweetheart. And he sure as hell didn't just disappear. But your daddy, he had a way of convincing folks to forget. To pretend. He had that stare. Cold. Heavy. And back then he worked with the county, files, permits, child services. He knew what strings to cut. I tried to breathe, but my chest wouldn't cooperate. What happened to him? She hesitated. I can't say for sure. Only what I saw. What I heard. Tell me. She closed her eyes. I was there that night. I heard the screaming. August 89. Your mama was outside, barefoot, holding you. You were screaming too. But inside the house. I heard Ethan. Crying. Yelling for help. Then silence. My skin crawled. The next day, Arthur said Ethan had gone to live with relatives in Ohio. But nobody ever saw him again. No funeral. No goodbye. Just gone. I pulled the birth certificate from my jacket and laid it on the table. Then why does this say he died? She shook her head. Because your father needed a death certificate to close the books. So he wrote the ending himself. I felt like I was falling down an endless staircase. Every step a lie. Every landing made of fog. Do you think he killed him? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Then she said something that made my stomach knot. You ever wonder why the house never felt quiet even when it was empty? Why no renters ever stayed more than a week? Why the backyard flowers never grew where the swing set used to be? I froze. You think he's still there? She reached into a drawer and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. Set it on the table. It was a child's shoe. Dirty. Worn. Too small for any living child now. I found this buried near the fence line. 10 years ago. I never told a soul. But I knew someday you'd come back. And when you did, the house would wake up. My hands trembled as I unwrapped it. Inside the shoe was a scrap of fabric. Blue faded. A piece of a pajama shirt. Sewn into the hem was a name tag. Property of Ethan Brennan. I didn't drive back to the house that night. I ran. Mrs. Wilkins hadn't just handed me a child's shoe, she'd handed me a coffin with no body. A silent accusation. A whisper with weight. The house was darker than when I left it. As if it knew what I'd learned. As if it had been listening. I stood in the doorway for a long time, just breathing. The hallway light flickered once. Then again. then went out completely. I lit a candle, and I opened the basement door. It groaned like it hadn't been moved in decades. Cold air spilled up from below, wet and metallic. The kind of cold that doesn't feel like temperature, it feels like memory. I hadn't been down there since I was maybe 7. Even then, Dad never let me go past the first few steps. Tools, he'd say. Dangerous stuff. The candlelight trembled with my hand as I descended. The stairs bent and cracked beneath me. Old wood, damp and splintered. The walls were lined with rusted shelves, old paint cans, stacks of newspapers. But it wasn't the main basement that interested me. It was the door in the far corner. Half-height, metal, padlocked. I'd seen it once as a kid. Asked what was behind it. My father's voice went low and cold when he said, "That's not for you." Now it was for me. The padlock had rusted, but it broke after a few hits with a crowbar I found under the stairs. The door creaked open, just enough for me to slide through sideways. What I found made my skin crawl. A smaller room, maybe 10 feet wide. Dirt floor. No windows. No light. Just a cot in the corner. A child's cot. The walls were covered in scratches. Hundreds of them. Short, desperate. Like fingernails trying to count days. Or scream. I stepped inside. The smell was thick. Mold, rot, rust, and something wrong. Something old. Not just death, but denied death. In the corner was a small box. Wooden. Nailed shut. I pried it open. Inside were toys. A broken G.I. Joe. A blue race car. A set of plastic keys. And a journal. Child-sized. I opened the cover. The first page was dated June 2nd, 1989. Daddy says I can't go upstairs anymore. He says I messed up. But I didn't mean to hurt the bird. It just stopped moving. I miss Mikey. He's my brother. He still gets to play. I hear him sometimes. I asked Mom to let me out. She cried. Then Daddy got mad. She didn't come back. My throat tightened. I flipped forward. The writing got shakier. Desperate. Less coherent. Drawings filled the margins, stick figures behind bars. A sun without a face. A figure with no eyes. The last entry was dated August 12th. It's getting dark in my head. I think Daddy wants me to disappear. But I won't. I'll stay. I'll wait. I'll remember. Mikey will find me. I dropped the journal. A sound came from behind me. A whisper right next to my ear. You found me. The candle went out. And in the pitch-black dark, something small brushed my hand. Not wind. Not a mouse. Fingers. I don't remember running back up the stairs. I just remember the light not coming back on. No matter how many switches I flipped, no matter how much I screamed, every shadow felt like it wanted to hold me. Every corner whispered like it knew my name. Back in the living room, I called 911. No signal. Of course not. I checked the front door. Locked. Chain bolted from the inside. Something I didn't do. The key I'd used the day before? Gone. The house wasn't letting me leave. So I did what any desperate man does. I started drinking. Half a bottle of Jack from the dusty cabinet. Warm and sharp down my throat. My hands still shook. My breath came in short, terrified gasps. The journal sat on the coffee table, closed, but not silent, pressed on the room, like a weight in the air. I opened it again, flipping past the last entry, hoping for God knows what. But something was there, written in fresh ink. You're not like him. I dropped the book like it bit me. I looked around. Ethan, I said aloud. If you're here, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Silence. Then soft, but clear. He buried her too. I froze. Who? The room felt colder, heavier, like the walls leaned in to listen. Mom! I stood so fast I knocked over the bottle. I ran upstairs, into the bedroom they shared. Ripped open drawers, closets, storage chests. Nothing. No personal items from her past 10 years. No clothes. No letters. No photos. It was like she vanished. And then I saw it. A faint square on the floor of the bedroom closet. Panel. Covered by an old rug. I pulled it up, pried at the wood. Beneath it, earth. Freshly packed. Damp. I dug with my bare hands. 6 inches down, my fingers hit cloth, then skin. I staggered back, vomiting hard against the wall. The smell confirmed what I already knew. My mother never left this house. He buried her, right beneath where he slept. No wonder the flowers wouldn't grow. I sat there, shaking, until something moved behind me. A small figure stood in the doorway, bare feet, dirty pajamas, head tilted, eyes gone, just shadows where they should have been. But I knew him. I remembered him. Ethan, I whispered. He didn't move, didn't speak. Then from somewhere behind him, another voice. Low, familiar, cruel. I told you not to open that door. I turned and saw my father, dead for 2 weeks, standing in the hall, eyes black, face wrong, like the house had rebuilt him from memory and rage. I ran, down the hall, down the stairs, through the kitchen, but the back door wouldn't open. Every lock fused shut, every window nailed. The house was a coffin, and it wanted me to remember every nail my father ever hammered in. I barricaded myself in the study. Chair under the doorknob, couch pressed against it. Curtains pulled shut like that would somehow protect me from whatever the hell I'd just seen. My father's voice still echoed in my skull. I told you not to open that door. But I had, and now there was no undoing it. The journal lay open on the desk. Its final page, the one I was sure hadn't existed before, had new words. He didn't mean to kill me. He meant to make me quiet. My stomach turned. I flipped back through the pages, looking for clues, for patterns, something I'd missed. That's when I noticed a page near the middle had been stuck to the one before it. Glue. Dried aged. I carefully peeled them apart. Hidden between them was a folded scrap of paper. A letter, written in my mother's handwriting. Arthur, I can't live with what you've done. I saw the bruises. I heard his cries. I begged you to stop. You told me he needed to be fixed. He was just a boy. Our boy. If you don't let him out, I swear I'll tell Michael. I'll tell everyone. God help you if he finds out what you did to his brother. My breath stopped in my throat. He didn't just lock Ethan away. He tortured him, conditioned him like an animal, shoved him into that filthy room in the basement for weeks, months, until something inside Ethan just broke. And when Mom threatened to speak, he made her disappear too. Every time I'd asked why she left, he said she couldn't handle things anymore. I believed him. I believed him. And all the while, I played in the backyard, ate dinner, watched TV, while Ethan was beneath us. I pressed my fists to my eyes, trying to hold the scream back. The silence of the house changed. It shifted, became aware. And then it spoke. Not in words. In images. Flashes. Like memories that weren't mine. I saw Ethan huddled in the basement, covered in filth, whispering songs to himself just to stay sane. I saw my father standing at the door, silent, watching. I saw my mother sobbing, hand over her mouth, staring at a small grave in the garden. And then, I saw myself, sitting at the table, eating cereal, smiling, because I didn't know. I had no idea. The barricade shifted behind me. The study door trembled. Then a voice. Soft, young, broken. He said you'd forget me. The door creaked open. Nothing on the other side. Just cold air and the sound of footsteps, small and careful, descending into the basement again. Inviting me. No, daring me. To see the truth. All of it. So I followed. The basement steps groaned like dying bones as I descended for the last time. No candle this time. No flashlight. Just the glow from the hallway behind me and the cold that crawled up my back like fingers searching for a grip. The door to the back room was wide open now. The little cell where Ethan had spent his last weeks. It was different this time. Brighter. Lit not by bulbs, but by something else. A glow that had no source, just presence. Like grief made visible. Like rage that never got to scream. Ethan was there. Sitting cross-legged on the cot. Pajamas still dirty. Skin pale and translucent. Hollow where his eyes should have been. But I could feel him watching me. Why? I asked, my voice raw. Why show me all this now? He didn't answer with words. He stood. And I felt everything. His hunger. His loneliness. His need. He had waited for me. 34 years in the dark. Feeding off the rot my father left behind. Growing into something that was no longer entirely human. But he remembered. He remembered love. He remembered me. I took a step forward. Then another. I'm sorry, I whispered. I didn't know. I should have. I should have. His voice cut through me. Clear. Soft. 5 years old and endless. Do you want to stay with me now? I froze. Because that was the choice, wasn't it? Not forgiveness. Not justice. Company. He didn't want revenge. He wanted me to stay. To never leave again. To be what our father stole from him. And for a moment, I almost said yes. But then I saw it. My mother. Not a ghost. Not a corpse. Just a flicker, her smile, her eyes. Standing behind him, one hand gently on his shoulder. She shook her head. A single tear rolled down her cheek. And I understood. He needed to let go. So I did the only thing I could. I reached out. Held Ethan's small, broken hand in mine. I remember you, I said. I always will. The room began to shake. Dust fell from the ceiling. Wood groaned. The temperature dropped like a cliff. Ethan's grip tightened, but not in anger. In relief. And then he smiled. It was brief. It was enough. And just like that, he vanished. The cot collapsed. The walls stopped weeping. The house exhaled. I sold the property 6 months later. Technically, it still belonged to me, but I couldn't step foot in it again. They'll probably demolish it. Or let it rot like everything else in Centralia. I kept the journal. Sometimes I read it when it rains. Just to remember. Not the horror. Not the darkness. The boy. My brother. Ethan. And every time I close the cover, I whisper to the walls around me. You're not forgotten.